Welcome to Ad Age Studio 30 Live. I'm John Dioso, the editor of Ad Age Studio 30. My guest today founded Ibotta in 2012, and the premise that it is more cost effective to give consumers a small reward to try a new product rather than bombard them with display ads online. Over the past decade, the company built the industry's first pay-per-sale platform for digital promotions, and its mobile app has been downloaded over 40 million times. Ibotta has worked with over 2,000 different CPG brand partners and given away more than $1.2 billion in cash back rewards. But in a time of tightening ad budgets and heightened demands for accurate measurement amid fears of a looming recession, how can CPG brands allocate the right amount of dollars to the right channels to achieve optimal return on their ad spend? Joining me today to discuss how performance marketing may prove to be the next frontier in digital advertising is Bryan Leach, founder and CEO of Ibotta. Bryan, welcome.
Thanks for having me, John.
So great to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
Great. And thank you to everyone out there for joining us today. And before we get into our discussion, I want to welcome our viewers to say hi on social media and let us know where you're watching us from. Okay, Bryan, first question. Am I pronouncing Ibotta correctly?
Nailed it. Yes, it's a bad pun based on I bought a bag of groceries, for example. So that's where it all started.
Sweet. It's all, we're just going to cruise from here. All right. No, seriously, but to get into the theme of today's show, given the past couple of years and the uncertain economy, what does the CPG landscape look like now?
Yeah, I know it's a difficult time. Obviously, you've got a situation where you have, on the one hand, rising, inflation, supply chain challenges, rising costs. And so there's a greater focus on efficiency in advertising than there has been in the past. Because people are watching their bottom lines as their cost to produce these products has gone up. So the demand for efficiency is higher than ever before. I think the level of sophistication has gone up. So the expectation in terms of targeted advertising, measurable advertising, even for products that are sold in store, which is true of 90% of CPG products to this day, has gone up. And then, of course, you have privacy laws that have changed. And so the legal and regulatory landscape continues to become more challenging for certain types of digital advertising platforms. You now have over 8 states with privacy legislation and federal legislation on the horizon. So that really restricts the ability to get the same level of signal or targeting with some of those display ads that may have been possible in the past, which of course goes against the goal of efficiency. So those are some challenges that CPG advertisers have been facing.
Right. I mean, I'm glad that you brought up digital and data, and that's certainly playing a lot into this, and that's where we are right now as an industry. Two of the things that have gotten a lot more press in recent days, practically every single day, are retail media networks and live stream shopping. So why would you say that performance marketing would be an important key to converting CPG ads to sales?
Yeah, so I think first thing is, what do we mean when we say performance marketing? Because it's a sort of a buzzword and it's important to be clear. I think what we mean is that the advertisement is not sold on a fee per impression or 1,000 impression bundle or a fee per click or a fee per clip in the form of a promotion. It's based on a fee per unit sold. And so what you do is you look at how many actual conversions there are of that ad, either to an in-store sale or an online sale. And then the cost of the advertising is calculated based on, if you will, the success at driving bottom of funnel results. Performance-based marketing is not new. It's been around. If you're familiar with affiliate marketing in the context of online retail, sending someone from a publisher directly through to Target.com, Walmart.com, measuring how much sales took place through that unique link, and then generating a commission back to the publisher. But what's good about it is that it aligns the incentives of the advertiser with those of the platform, so that we only get paid when you are successful in driving a bottom of funnel result. It's not the only goal, of course, that advertisers have. They also want to tell the story of their brand. And so they, of course, need to invest in building the upper funnel strategy and getting that out there. But is there a way that you don't have to choose quite as much? Can you get that same story out, those same impressions, but structure them in such a way that they're more likely to result in a measurable sale? And it's a combination of those things. And so it's about that mix of performance and traditional upper funnel media.
Got it. So how does performance marketing work specifically with CPG brands, and how is it scalable?
Yeah, so one of the challenges, John, is that, like I said, most CPG brands are still sold in physical stores. So historically, you would run a television ad or you would run a radio ad out of home, Facebook, Google, what have you, and you would rely on an MMM model. If possible, you would try and use statistics to estimate as best you could what the lift might have been that was attributable to that particular thing out of so many things that consumers are encountering. And that's pretty difficult to do. And in most cases, you would see much less than a 100% payback on that spend within sort of the first period of measurement, say, call it the first year. But the article of faith has been, well, I have to continue to build my upper funnel brand. With retail media networks and with just retailers becoming more sophisticated about how they capture and store and manipulate and analyze data, now for the first time, you actually have the ability much more to track from an ad impression or a promotion all the way through to a subsequent sale measured down to the UPC level. Retailers for a long time had data, credit cards had data at the level 2, what we call transactional level. So you would know that Bryan spent $75 at Walmart, but this is level 3 data, meaning the items in the basket. And that's what's important for the CPG advertiser, because I care about the fact that Bryan spent $75 at Walmart, but I'm much more interested in the fact that Bryan bought Tide and this variant of Tide at Walmart on this day and how much he paid for it. So once you have that information, now you can start to build a completely different set of targeted media products, and then you can measure lift in real time. And not only are you looking to measure lift, John, you're also looking to measure what we call incrementality, or the number of sales that would not otherwise have occurred but for the promotion or advertisement. So what you're trying to do as a CPG advertiser is efficiently drive incremental sales. So you want to get as many net new sales as possible for the lowest cost, and you measure that return on investment. And if you're not paying for those impressions and clicks that don't work, and you're only paying for those that do work and drive sale at the bottom of the funnel, you see that return on advertising spend or return on investment is 200, 300, 400%, much higher than some of the traditional approaches.
No, I'm glad you brought up Walmart. So Ad Age reported about a month ago about a deal that Walmart had made with Ibotta. Can you tell me a little bit about what the Ibotta Performance Network is and how it actually works?
Yeah, so look, we were pioneers, as you said, in fee per unit sold advertising. And we did that through our direct-to-consumer mobile application, which tracks about $30 billion worth of sales every year down to the item level. And as I said, is very efficient because it's performance-based. But the problem was that we didn't have enough scale. So if you're an advertiser watching this, you go, that's great. I can use you as a nice little tuck-in tactic during a seasonal event. But it's not like the Ibotta app itself could be a major part of my marketing mix. I just can't spend enough money on it. You don't have enough sales. You're selling things on a per unit sold basis. There's just not enough units there. In a $1 trillion industry, you capture 3% of that with 30 billion of purchases. So 5 years ago, we set out building this network, which we call the Ibotta Performance Network, or IPN, which is actually a set of rails that pipe all of our content out to a network of publishers. Walmart is one of the publishers that presents Ibotta's rewards content and performance marketing content in its mobile app, web page, etc. It's not the only one. We also display that content on Kroger's pages. We display it on Shell in terms of fuel rewards, and also other publishers, recipe sites, for instance, blog sites can all broadcast or publish our content and then link back to a place where you can buy that in store or online at one of our supported retail partners. Walmart, though, has 150 million people who visit their store every week, and a very high percentage of those people are digitally engaged. And so now, in addition to the Ibotta app, you're selling that same fee per unit sold promotion, but you're getting access to 10 times the volume in just the form of one of our publishers. And the network sees to it that when content is distributed, it's distributed in a targeted way based on the characteristics of the particular consumer. And it's also done in a completely coordinated fashion. So you can't have an offer that shows up on Ibotta and on Walmart and gets credited at the same time. It sort of performs that natural air traffic control function. And you can then log in as an advertiser and see exactly how your nationwide campaign is performing, how many units are being moved in store, online, which retailers, which publisher apps, whether it's Ibotta or a recipe app or some other rewards app. You can see the distribution, demographics, and characteristics of the people buying that product. And most importantly, how incremental each one of those purchases is. So it functions kind of like the trade desk would for display ads on the open web, only it's the trade desk for direct response or promotions.
So you mentioned, it was a great example about how you're connecting where customers are in their consumer journey, and by using IP, and how brands can kind of track that, what they're buying at point of sale, et cetera. To walk us through a little bit about how does it work as far as omnichannel, and when people are so focused on their omnichannel strategies.
Yeah,
Let us know a little bit about that.
the network we built is completely omni-channel. So you can present content that can be displayed on, say, Walmart's website for, say, a Walmart Plus member. That Walmart Plus member has free shipping. She may want the product sold to her, sent to her house. She hits checkout. Voila, the order is delivered. She gets $7 of cash back in Walmart rewards. Or she could decide to go to the store. And if she goes to the store, she presents a QR code at checkout, and that gets scanned, and she's sort of identified herself. Within about 2 seconds, she gets a push notification saying, here's that $7 that you can then spend on the future on trips to walmart.com or in the store. But you also may have a hybrid version. So you may buy ahead and pick up in store. There are various permutations. Drone delivery is coming, people coming to your house and installing the products in your cupboard. All of those forms of purchase are all completely covered by our rewards program. It doesn't matter how you pay. You can pay with food stamps, EBIT. You can pay with a debit card, credit card, cash. We can track that transaction and give you credit on the retailer's own loyalty program or on our own site, depending on where the consumer first encounters that content.
Okay, you've already mentioned a bunch of the biggest retailers in the country, and who are your partners, and publishers as well. Have the giant CPG brands started allocating more of their marketing mix into performance marketing?
Yes, we're proud to say we work with essentially every major brand in the United States. 2,100 brands are investing heavily in our network because it really moves the needle for their product. You want to be in the path of that search that's occurring on Walmart or on Kroger. You want your product to show that it has a reward underneath it to drive attention, capture market share, drive click-through rate, buy-through rate. And you can measure all of that. So you're not spending a single dollar that isn't going to work for you. They're also tying that into their media strategy. And we're working very closely with the media agencies of some of the largest brand companies in the world. So when they run an ad, now instead of linking to a brand web page, they can link directly to a choose retailer screen that we power that allows the consumer to say, I want to buy this product right, and I want to get $2 or $5 of reward. I can choose to buy it at Walmart or at Kroger, any of the other retailers that we support. And you can deep link directly to a place where that's now on your shopping list or in your cart, and you're going to get rewarded by the retailer of your choosing. So it's making that path to purchase from an online ad to an in-store purchase more efficient, because you're pulling people through by giving them a portion of the value, i.e. a small reward. And you're also creating a reason for them to authenticate who they are by logging in one time, tokenizing who they are and saying, I'm Bryan, I'm Walmart user 1234567, or I'm Dollar General user 1234567. Now, because the consumer's getting something, she's inclined to actually opt in, share the data necessary to do the attribution of that ad. So now we can see where it showed up, where they selected to capture that reward, and then whether they bought it subsequently in store or online. And everything's done in a completely privacy compliant way, because by cutting the consumer in on the deal a little bit, you've given her a reason to opt into sharing the data necessary to create these efficiencies.
I brought up retail media networks before, and they're taking off for a very good reason. Data is part of it. Also, they're a great deal for the retailers themselves. How does the return on ad spend? You mentioned working with media agencies and for brands. How does the return on ad spend compare working in the performance marketing versus at other channels?
Yeah, look, it's a combination of things where it works best. So, for instance, if you're going to buy a display ad on a retailer webpage, or you're going to buy search results, sponsored or otherwise, on a retailer web page, you want to make sure that those are performing as highly as possible. By combining that with a reward or a performance marketing ad unit, you're going to dramatically increase the buy-through rate and click-through rate, and also the level of prominence of that content. And that's why people do it as an and strategy. You wouldn't want to do it at the expense of investing in retail media, because look, retail media is a very high intent to purchase shopper based on all the data that the retailer has, which is more than anybody else has. So you have to participate actively in retail media, and that's really become table stakes. This is a way to accentuate or improve the performance of that retail media, to make sure that as you're extending into off-property purchases, perhaps using the audiences that the retailer's DSP makes available, for instance, the trade desk powers that for companies like Walmart, Dollar General, et cetera, you would be able to not only target a display ad more effectively to someone who you want to switch into your brand, but actually entice them to try your brand. So I think the idea here, John, is that one of the best ways to grow market share is to get people to use your product one time. And if you give them 50 cents or $1, there is a dramatically higher likelihood that they will buy that product than if you just show them a display ad in their feed, 20 times higher in some cases. So as a result of that, now I've got that thing, that piece of food, and I make a meal for my friends. They say, "Ooh, what's that? I love that. Oh, it's this new product," right? And then that word of mouth is very authentic. People are going to trust that friend of theirs who says, "I really love this." Or you just simply like the packaging, you like the smell of that shampoo, whatever it is. There's no substitute for getting that first purchase. So the way a lot of people use our platform is for when they launch new products, when they want to drive people into higher margin products or drive trial of new pack sizes. And they really want to get that starter log going in terms of people using their product. At the same time, they're telling them about the brand attributes. They're really pulling them through to try the product. The combination of that and the trackability from that upper funnel ad all the way out to the end, which is made possible by the existence of this reward, all of that allows them to then optimize their media investment strategy and gain measurable market share. They can actually see their market share moving, because this is finally at a scale that is kind of relevant. We like to call it performance marketing efficiency at Super Bowl scale. It used to be that you had to do a Super Bowl ad because you just couldn't get any access to that many billions of people around the world, or hundreds of millions in the United States, any other way. But it was a little bit iffy on whether you were really getting a good return on that $7, $8, $9, $10 million ad that you ran for 30 seconds. Here you have the scale. You can reach 150 million people at Walmart, tens of millions at our other publisher partners in the network, and you are only paying for that when it works. So you finally can make it a more substantial part of your marketing mix than has been possible in the past.
Great. Well, if you're just joining us, this is Addy Studio 30 Live. I'm John Dioso, the editor of Studio 30, and I'm here with Bryan Leach, the CEO of Ibotta, and we're discussing how CPG brands are upending the funnel of performance marketing at scale. But before we get back to the conversation, I just want to say hi to the people who are watching. We got Victoria from Spain. We got Spain there, Bryan. Richard from Nigeria, and Lauren from Florida. Hey, Lauren, I hope you're safe. I hope things are going well for you. Thank you so much for joining us. And let's get back to the conversation, Bryan. We just have a few minutes left. Wow, we've been going there for a second. I want to talk a little bit more broadly about more consumer behavior, consumer psychology here. How much does brand affinity play into the efficacy of performance marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, you want to build brand affinity in a number of different ways. You can do that by having a celebrity endorse your product. You can do that by talking about the attributes of your product. You can do that with social influencers. You want to have a component of your marketing that's not going anywhere. No one thinks that's bad spend. It's just, how can it be more efficient spend? Now that you can tie that in with strategies like direct response, giving someone a small portion of the value chain to say, you know what, try my product for the first time, see what you think. Now you've got some momentum with them, and they are what we show is that the combination of that brand affinity building that people are doing and kind of giving people the goodwill created by giving them a reward, or just nudging them to get outside of the rut of maybe what brand they've been buying in the past. We've seen brand affinity weaken actually during the pandemic because of lack of availability of the brand that you normally buy. cost of the brand that you normally buy relative to, say, private label or another brand that has a reward that you found in your search results when you search for laundry detergent. Oh, wow, look at that. There's a brand that I can buy that I'm not maybe familiar with or don't have a strong affinity toward, but they're giving me a reasonable reward. I'm going to try that one time, see how that works with my laundry. So I think it's a combination. And right now, brand affinity is up for grabs to some degree. Brand loyalty is up for grabs. And we think the combination, both in terms of the type of call to action and influence that you give the end consumer, but also because by doing both, again, you can link from that display ad all the way out to a one-to-one measurement of that consumer's specific purchase habits, which is harder to do if the consumer doesn't have a reason to give you that information. So take Facebook, for example. Used to be they could track everybody's data app to app. Now a very small percentage of people opt into that because why? Why would I opt into you sending me more personally relevant ads? So the ability to build brand affinity is weakened with the loss of signal on Facebook. Meanwhile, though, in our model, if you're giving people a small reward in your category during a key window, seasonal event, it's not necessarily always all the time, and you're targeting that to competitive buyers, et cetera, now those people are given a reason why they want to sort of opt into, I want to give you information about who I am, where I shop, what I buy, thus Ibotta. And that's going to allow me to get a reward and more personally relevant offers. And it's going to allow the retailers to get more traffic in their store, and because those brand dollars are more efficiently driving traffic in their store. And it's going to allow the CPG brands to know more about their customer, gather more data for their first party databases, and also just get smarter about what types of calls to action or offer levels or timing cadence work with different subsegments of the consumer population. So our partners are getting smarter and smarter. They're using our dashboard to optimize how they spend money in performance marketing. It's not just that they shifted more money into performance and away from buying impressions and clicks. It's also that they're getting smarter and more kind of jujitsu about exactly how to do the performance marketing investment that they have made.
And we just have a few minutes left, and I want to come back around to the original kind of way that we were framing this conversation, which is, every day comes more and more news. People are getting an uncertain economy, or people are worrying about a looming recession, or UK, S&P reported the UK has actually been in a recession for the past several months. How much does that affect how CPG brands, what they're looking for, what they're planning for the future, and how does that relate to the stumbling blocks that still remain for CPGs in integrating a performance marketing strategy into their marketing mix?
Well, look, I mean, right now the consumer is more value sensitive than at any point in the last decade. So if you are talking about stealing market share of wallet, appealing to the consumer through the form of a reward or price is a very important strategy. And if you're not doing it and others in your category are doing it, you'll see that show up in your market share. You're already seeing brands lose market share to private label for that reason, for own brands for that reason. But it's also the case that brands need to think about where every dollar is going because their own cost structure has gone up. So you could say, well, why am I giving John, 25 or 50 cents to buy my $10 product or $8 product? I need that in my margin. Well, the answer is that when you look at the cost per incremental unit sold, it's dramatically lower, and the return on investment is dramatically higher than if you spent that same dollar on a bunch of traditional media outlets. And so you are, in effect, saving money as an organization and finding greater efficiency. That's always been true. The problem was it just wasn't a good return on time invested because there wasn't enough scale. Now with this network, for the first time ever, you can reach hundreds of millions of people through a single, essentially, ad buy in a single interface and track that nationwide across all of your key customer accounts without having to work in a siloed fashion to set those up or worry about whether they conflict with one another. Now it's a good use of time and a good use of money to incorporate that as a larger portion of the mix. Again, it's just part of a mix. It's not supplanting all other tactics, but it's something that has been underemphasized or underrepresented in the overall mix until some of these breakthroughs with our network and what retailers are capturing in terms of data, et cetera.
All right, I think we have another minute left. Just I'd love to just comment on. We've been talking about CPG for the entire time today. How does this approach apply to other industries outside of CPG, especially as we're heading into a recession?
First of all,
Possible.
the affiliate marketing market is an $8 billion market. So globally. So that has more than gone up by 4x in the last 5 or 10 years. So that is already performance marketing. Every single online retailer uses sites like Rakuten, Ibotta, and others all around the world. In China, it would be Fanli. In Singapore, it would be Shopback. And in Japan, it would be Rakuten. And so that's for all categories of products, might be clothing, what have you, but that's the online retailer attracting traffic in a more efficient way. From a brand perspective, from a manufacturer perspective, this network is for everyone. It's not just for traditional CPG or food or grocery. We are working with apparel manufacturers, beauty manufacturers, home appliances, electronics, sporting goods, pet products. All of it works on a fee per unit sold basis as long as you have the item level data from both in-store and online tied out to that specific user ID. And you can do that nationally across all major retailers simultaneously. Doesn't matter if you are, making garments, or whether you are making mountain bikes, or whether you're making, chocolate milk. It's exactly the same principle. Now, there are tactics and techniques. You flight that in a different way during key windows. You might have a different strategy in terms of how you do your pricing or targeting. But the basic idea of paying when you get something that works and that's the bottom of the funnel proven, versus paying for things that may or may not work, where you bear the risk of the conversion from that bundle of impressions or that click to an in-store sale, and you're relying on a model that you or an agency is telling you about, that makes sound sense. And in fact, our partnership with Walmart extends to every single category in Walmart, not just the grocery aisle.
So if I can bot it works.
That's right.
Sorry. I apologize to everybody out there for that. No, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Ibotta CEO Bryan Leach, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, John.
All right. And most of all, thanks to all of you out there for joining us for Ad Age Studio 30 Live. I'm John Dioso. See you next time.